All right, everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Absolutely. Always ready to dig into these fascinating topics.
Today, we're looking at something that's been in the news quite a bit lately, the use of elephants in religious ceremonies.
Yeah, this is a topic that's definitely relevant for anyone prepping for the UPSC. It touches on so many themes that are important for both mains and prelims.
Definitely. We're talking about environmental conservation,
Yeah.
cultural practices, legal frameworks, even the role of science in policymaking.
It's almost like a perfect storm of UPSC topics rolled into one.
Okay, so to set the stage, I think we have to start with the incident that really brought this issue to the forefront recently, the elephant that injured 24 people at a mosque feast in Kerala.
Yeah, that was a tragic event, and sadly, it's not an isolated case.
The statistics are really sobering when you look at them. Between 2011 and 2023, captive elephants have killed 196 people.
And then you have the number of captive elephant deaths themselves, 24 in 2024 alone, and a total of 154 since 2019.
It's clear that there are some serious concerns about the safety and well-being of both humans and elephants in these situations.
For sure. And to make things even more complex, you have the legal battles that have been going on surrounding this issue.
Right. The Kerala High Court tried to step in and implement some safety measures for festivals involving elephants, trying to regulate the distance between elephants and crowds and things like that.
But the Supreme Court overturned those restrictions. They cited the voluntary assumption of risk principle.
So basically, they acknowledged that there are inherent risks involved, but ultimately placed the responsibility on the individuals attending these events.
Yeah, it's a bit of a legal tightrope walk.
It makes you think about how cultural traditions and personal choices sometimes come into conflict with safety concerns.
Absolutely. And this tension really played out in the case of Thrissur Puram, which is Kerala's largest festival.
Oh, right. The organizers of Thrissur actually argued that the High Court's safety restrictions were pretty much impossible to implement given the scale and nature of the event.
Yeah, they claimed it would disrupt the very essence of the festival.
So it seems like finding a balance between preserving cultural traditions and ensuring safety is incredibly difficult.
Absolutely. And through all of this, we can't forget about the elephants themselves.
Right. They don't exactly have a voice in all of this.
And the elephant involved in that recent tragedy actually had a history of aggression.
That's disturbing.
Yep.
Makes you wonder if that aggression was a result of being forced into these situations.
It's a real possibility, and it's not just speculation either. The Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, CCMB, did a study in 2019 that showed significant levels of stress in elephants forced to participate in festivals.
That's really concerning. What did that study find exactly?
Oh, it's quite disturbing. These elephants showed elevated stress hormones, they had suppressed immune systems, there was even evidence of neuronal cell death.
Wow. So it's not just a matter of discomfort. It's actually causing real measurable harm.
Exactly, and that raises serious ethical questions about whether the continuation of these practices is justifiable.
Even beyond the scientific studies, you can just see the distress in these animals sometimes. That swaying, the head bobbing, the strain you can see in their movements from overexertion.
It's heartbreaking. And it really underscores the need to find solutions that prioritize their well-being.
So I guess the question is, where do we go from here?
Well, that's what we're going to delve into. But first, let's take a quick break.
Sounds good. Back in a bit.
See you soon. Now, we were talking about some potential solutions before the break, and one that's been getting a lot of attention is DNA profiling.
Right. Using science to help track elephants and prevent illegal capture.
Exactly. And this initiative is really interesting because it's trying to tackle a few problems at once.
So it's not just about identifying individual elephants.
No, it's also about cracking down on that illegal trade we were discussing.
Because if they can create this genetic database, they can actually verify ownership and origin, right?
That's the idea. So let's say someone tries to pass off a wild-caught elephant as captive bred.
With DNA profiling, they would be able to get away with that.
Exactly. It'd be like trying to forge a fingerprint. The DNA evidence would be right there.
That's pretty powerful. But India has a huge elephant population.
Oh, yeah. It's a massive undertaking.
Logistically, how are they even planning to roll this out across the entire country?
Well, they're starting in Kerala and then expanding to other states gradually.
Makes sense to start somewhere and then scale up.
Right. But one of the biggest challenges they're facing is access to the elephants themselves.
Yeah, you need to collect those samples, the blood or the tissue.
Exactly, and that means getting cooperation from owners and from temple
I
authorities.
can imagine there might be some resistance to that.
Oh, absolutely, especially if people are worried about the legal implications.
If they're not doing things by the book, they're not going to want to hand over that DNA evidence.
Right, and then there's also the issue of resources.
Setting up and maintaining a DNA database is not a small feat.
No, it requires specialized labs, you need trained personnel, you have to have a robust data management system.
It's a huge investment.
And it's not something that's going to happen overnight, it takes time.
So it sounds like while DNA profiling has a lot of potential, it's not going to be a quick fix.
It's a long-term solution that needs sustained effort.
Okay, so DNA profiling is one piece of the puzzle. What other solutions are people talking about?
Well, some experts believe we need to rethink how we view tradition and conservation.
Instead of seeing them as being at odds with each other.
Right, like how can we leverage Kerala's cultural association with elephants in a way that actually ensures their welfare?
So finding that common ground.
Exactly, like for instance, could we use statues or other symbolic representations in some ceremonies?
That's an interesting idea, using symbolism to maintain the cultural significance, but without the actual animal being present.
It's a pretty radical shift, though.
I wonder how traditionalists would react to something like that.
Oh, there would definitely be pushback from some groups.
Change is never easy, especially when you're talking about deep-rooted cultural practices.
But it's a conversation we need to have.
Yeah, to see if there are ways to evolve these traditions without erasing them entirely.
And that brings us back to those Kerala High Court directions we mentioned earlier.
The ones that focused on safety measures for festivals.
Yeah, things like crowd control, noise restrictions, limiting the number of elephants.
This seems like a more practical approach, at least in the short term.
It addresses some of the immediate safety concerns without totally upending the tradition itself.
But the question is, how effective are these regulations actually going to be?
That's the key. It all comes down to enforcement.
If they're not strictly enforced, they're not going to do much good.
And it requires buy-in from everyone involved, the organizers, the participants, the local authorities.
So it's a collective effort.
Absolutely. But regulations are just one part of the solution. We need a multi-pronged approach.
And we can't forget about the role of technology in all of this.
Oh, for sure. We've talked about DNA profiling, but there are other really interesting advancements happening as well. Well, researchers are experimenting with using AI to monitor elephant behavior during these events.
AI, how does that work?
So they use these AI algorithms to analyze video footage.
And the AI can actually detect signs of stress or distress in the elephants.
Right, and it can alert the handlers in real time if there's a potential problem.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like having a digital guardian angel watching over them.
It's amazing what technology can do.
It really is. And there's been talk about developing virtual reality experiences too.
You mean so people could experience those cultural aspects of the ceremonies without any real animals involved?
Yeah, I've heard about similar initiatives to replace animal testing with virtual simulations.
It's fascinating to see how technology is offering these new solutions to really complex problems.
Definitely. And as future policymakers, you guys need to be aware of these advancements.
The UPSC exams aren't just about knowing the facts, they're about understanding the challenges India faces and being able to think critically about solutions.
You have to connect the dots between different subjects, right?
Exactly, and that's why this deep dive is so valuable for anyone prepping for the UPSC.
It's about understanding the nuances of these complex issues.
And being able to analyze different perspectives.
We've covered so much ground today. It's a lot to take in.
We've talked about the legal battles, the scientific evidence, and the potential role technology can play in addressing this issue.
And it's clear that there's no easy answer.
It's going to require collaboration from everyone to find a way forward.
A way that respects tradition, prioritizes animal welfare, and keeps everyone safe.
Right, and that's a perfect example of why this deep dive is relevant for the UPSC.
It's not just about memorizing facts. It's about getting to the heart of the issue and understanding the different perspectives.
And that's something we're going to continue exploring as we wrap up this deep dive.
But before we move on, let's just highlight how all of this connects back to the UPSC syllabus.
Oh, this is like a gold mine for UPSC prep.
You've got environmental conservation, which is a huge topic.
Absolutely, both for prelims and mains.
Then you have the legal battles. The 2022 Wildlife Act Amendment.
All incredibly relevant for the polity and governance section.
And the role of science and technology in finding solutions.
That's something you can bring into your answers across a variety of topics.
So it's like this one issue touches on so many key areas of the syllabus.
It's a microcosm of everything the UPSC is looking for: critical thinking, making connections, understanding the real-world implications.
Exactly, and that's what we're going to continue unpacking in the final part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot about the legal side, the scientific evidence about how these elephants are suffering, and even brainstorm some potential solutions. But I think for me, what's really sticking out is that question of finding the right balance. How do we make sure we're respecting these cultural traditions while also putting animal welfare first?
It's a really tough question, and I think it goes beyond just this one specific issue. It's like a much bigger challenge, Like, how do we balance progress and development with protecting the environment and all the creatures we share the planet with?
Yeah, it's about thinking about what kind of future we want, right? Like, can we have economic growth and these technological advancements without it being at the expense of other living beings?
Exactly. And that's the kind of big picture thinking the UPSC is looking for. They don't just want you to know the facts, they want to see that you understand the ethical implications of all these complicated issues.
So it's about realizing that the decisions we make, whether it's personal choices or policies, they all have consequences. And those consequences impact not just us, but the whole ecosystem.
It's about that interconnectedness, recognizing that we're responsible for protecting the environment, that we have a duty to make sure what we do today doesn't harm future generations.
It's a lot to think about, but I think it's important to acknowledge how serious this is. The UPSC, it's not just some exam. It's a path to positions of power. The decisions you'll be making as future IAS officers are going to have a real impact on people's lives and the environment.
It's a huge responsibility, but also a privilege. And that's why this kind of deep dive is so valuable. It gives you the knowledge and the critical thinking skills you're going to need to navigate all this.
And it's not just about passing the exam. It's about working towards a better future for India, one that's prosperous but also sustainable, where humans and animals can both thrive.
Absolutely. So as you continue studying for the UPSC and even beyond that, keep asking those tough questions, keep exploring different perspectives, and keep digging deeper into the issues that matter.
And to leave you with something to think about as you go forward, here's a question. Can cultural traditions evolve to prioritize both human enjoyment and animal welfare? It's a complicated question, but it's one that's worth wrestling with.
It really is. And as you prepare for the UPSC and for your future roles, remember that it's not about finding the one right answer. It's about understanding all the different angles, weighing the different perspectives, and making informed decisions that will help shape the future of India.
And if this deep dive has been helpful for you, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button and share it with your fellow UPSC aspirants. If you have any thoughts or insights, we encourage you to leave a comment below. We're all on this journey together, learning and growing as we go.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Happy studying, everyone.